and welcome to Life in Surround. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to be doing something that is always a great pleasure for me, which is reviewing a favorite album that has received the surround treatment. Just the best of both worlds. Often my favorite albums are not in surround, or the mix doesn't quite work out, or even though an album may be just tremendously well mixed, the music maybe isn't quite my cup of tea, but this one is the best of both worlds. It is the Black Album by Metallica. I say that as if it's a surprise, but you probably already read the title of this video. The Black Album, several years ago, received a DVD audio release. Mixed by the original engineer on the project, and let me refresh myself as to his name. Produced by Bob Rock, mixed by Randy Staub, and the cool thing about that is he was the original recording engineer on the Black Album sessions, and so, you know, that gives a strong chance that he knows what he was doing, right? So, my love affair with the Black Album began way back near its release. I remember as a kid waiting in line at my local warehouse to get a copy on CD in one of those massive long cardboard cases. Already familiar with their first 4 albums and the Garage Days EP, I was primed and pumped, ready for this release. Upon putting it on, it immediately engaged me with that dark, melodic intro figure, and then the thundering toms for Enter Sandman, and it packed quite a heavy punch. It really did it for me then, and I really feel like it has aged well. So this continues to be a favorite album for me, and fortunately, because it received a good mix, it continues to be a favorite listening experience for me in my surround environment. So let's talk about sound. I think it's notable that the Black Album represents an extreme upgrade in production over Injustice for All. A lot of people love the sound of Injustice for All, and it certainly is a trademark sound, and it bucked a lot of trends, and it did something different. But to me, the drum heads sound like they may as well be paint buckets, and it's well known by now that Jason Newsted's bass guitar was all but mixed off the album, much to the chagrin of the mixing engineer for the session, who has publicly posted his opinion about how the album should have been mixed and sort of like not taking the fault or the blame for that. So Metallica hired Bob Rock to produce this record. He was very meticulous about how things sounded. They went to great depths to get just the right drum sound for this album. These drum heads don't sound like paint buckets, they sound like gunshots. This is a super aggressive, super heavy sound. You know, you may have a different opinion, but my opinion is that the Black Album has never sounded bad. Even my original CD back from the 90s sounded killer. And what the DVD audio has done is taken that and run with it. You have the power, the clarity that the Black Album has always had, but now the parts have more room to breathe, and at least on my system, with much better bass response than any boombox or headphones or car stereo that I had back in the 90s, I'm finally able to like hear the Black Album with just tremendous fidelity, and it does not disappoint. Over on my Life in Surround Facebook page, when I posted earlier this week that I was listening to the Black Album and then sharing that over to the Quadraphonic and Surround page, universally positive responses about how good the album sounds. And that's not by accident. I mean, this is just a tremendously recorded, tremendously mixed, tremendously mastered album, and the DVD audio does not disappoint or drop the ball in that regard whatsoever. So let's talk about the music. There's no getting around the fact that this album represented a shift in Metallica's style. Injustice for All continued to carry on the legacy of thrash metal that really made the band famous. The Black Album features very little in the way of thrash stylings. I would classify this album more as like a hard rock, stadium rock type of effort. It does have some nods to their classic signature sound, but they were just going for something completely different here. This is rock-oriented, not metal-oriented. Which is to say that this album has not pleased all Metallica fans. It definitely alienated thrashers early on, but it also is a multi-platinum selling, very, very, very well-regarded, famous record. I believe it's 16 times platinum. So whether it's thrash or not, it definitely has been successful, and it rocks enough and engages me enough that I really dig it on its own grounds. This album spawned several videos: Enter Sandman, Wherever I May Roam, Nothing Else Matters, and The Unforgiven. I could stand if this album were maybe a track or two shorter, but even the songs that I feel are not the album at its strongest, when I put it on, I don't really feel like skipping them because I'm going to get to something that I love pretty quickly. This album's now out of print. Let's see what it's going for on eBay. Metallica DVD audio. Sort. Lowest first. So Metallica Black Album DVD audio without its case, $50. $250, $350 on eBay. Ugh, that's brutal. There are probably more choices on discogs, but yeah, it's out of print and is commanding out of print prices. Sometimes you can get lucky and find a good bargain on it. I happen to have found a copy at my local record store in the music videos bin. I believe it had been mistaken for the Classic Albums Black Album DVD, because I found it for $9.99. Probably somebody thought it was the Classic Albums DVD and brought it back as defective, and the store didn't know what to do with it, so they threw it out in the used bin. I picked it up for $10. Turned it around on Quadraphonic Quad for just a modest finder's fee, but didn't really look to fleece anybody. But that was a couple of years ago. I found my copy on Metallica.com. I was tipped off again on Quadraphonic Quad that I guess somebody at Metallica headquarters had found a box of these things in a janitor's closet or something, and for a very limited time they posted the DVD audio to their website. I think I got it for under $20. So sometimes you just gotta be there at the ground floor, or you're gonna have to go and pay those premium prices for out-of-print titles. But I'm telling you, is this worth going and seeking out, even though it's out of print and you may have to pay a bit more to get it? It is. Not only does this album sound great, but they really did knock the 5.1 mix out of the park. Alright, so about this mix. It would be oversimplifying a bit to say that you have the main band components up in the fronts and supportive elements in the surrounds. But generally, that's the starting point for most of these songs. Talking about the channels specifically, you have some dry vocal in the center, you have some snare in the center, and you have some kick in the center. Your bass guitar is out in those front lefts and rights, as well as some wet vocal, the other components of the drum kit, and the main rhythm guitars. Sometimes lead guitar does appear in those front lefts and rights. Sometimes it occupies the center. It does spend quite a bit of time down in those surrounds. Sometimes you have acoustic elements in the surrounds. You often have drum and vocal reverb in those surrounds. And very often you have background vocal overdubs relegated to the surrounds, though sometimes gang vocals can be front-centric as well. Now let's talk about Enter Sandman specifically. You do have that starting motif that we just covered, but some key points about Enter Sandman are that you have the deep adult male's prayer in the surround left, and you have the child's responsive prayer in the surround right. Now I lay me down to sleep, and so forth. I think you have an acoustic guitar in the surrounds that doubles the electric guitar arpeggio patterns in the intro and the outro and in kind of the pre-chorus. I'm pretty sure that there's an acoustic guitar there, and I never would have known that from the CD. Now, the most astounding thing about Enter Sandman to cover is the guitar solo. This may be the craziest panned guitar solo that I have ever heard, and for those people who say that metal tends to not get a very active, exciting mix in surround, this is a song to prove them wrong, because to my ears, the lead guitar makes quite a journey. It pans back and forth from the front left and front right, traversing through the center, spends quite a bit of time in the center, sort of in the middle passage, but then makes a journey from the front right, through the front left, back to the surround left, and finally over to the surround right, totally circling you in the room. And it's very cool how it's pulled off. I do recommend that you have your speakers in the correct calibration so that the guitar solo doesn't seem to have any kind of volume fluctuation. This will be a good test of whether you have things calibrated evenly. And then just to touch on another notable mix, we have Nothing Else Matters. This is a very different song in terms of arrangement, so they've done quite a bit of different things with it. Again, you have dry vocal in the center, you have kick and snare in the center, and your other drum parts out in the front left and right. You have your drum reverb, vocal reverb in the surrounds, like normal. You have James Hetfield's solo in the front left and right. Interestingly enough, it does not occupy the center. The center does get these string patches, and I think it might be a synthesizer that's meant to fatten up the sound of the actual orchestra. The actual orchestra tends to reside back in the surrounds, and that includes strings and brass. And then the last notable thing that jumped out at me was these kind of electric guitar swells. This kind of soft, ambient electric guitar hangs out back in the surround left. It's a very interesting mix. In many ways it harkens to the S&M concert, where you have the band up in front and the orchestra in the surrounds primarily. And another standout moment on the album is the deep bass that's featured in Wherever I May Roam. Jason Newsted, in the Making of the Black Album footage, and maybe in the year and a half in the Life of Metallica movie, has been on record saying that he was obviously disappointed with the bass for And Justice for All, and was overjoyed when he found that Bob Rock really respected bass frequencies and intended to fully incorporate just everything that bass had to offer for this album. And that is evident nowhere better than Wherever I May Roam. It is absolutely thunderous on my system. Now, the matched 12-inch subs help with that, but it's there for you if you wish to harness it. So, do I think it's worth tracking this down? The Black Album by Metallica? Absolutely I do. I wholeheartedly recommend this album. It is a cherished perennial for me. Seek it out if you are a surround nut at all, and if you can handle hard rock from a metal band. This really sits at the top of my pantheon. It's been my pleasure to share with you a favorite album mixed in surround. If you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. If you don't like this video, give me a thumbs down. Either way, leave comments. Tell us your experience with the DVD audio of Metallica by Metallica. Call me names. Make requests for other videos. Leave constructive criticism. Any way that you engage with the channel helps out. Likes, dislikes, comments, subscribe, share the video. And I look forward to doing this again real soon. And until next time, live life in surround.